This is a Book Potato interview. Today we're speaking with Tony Earnshaw. Tony is an author, playwright and poet. Tony, how are you?
Good, thanks. Nice. Enjoying the weather here in sunny Leatherhead.
Yes, indeed. The sun is out for once.
Yeah.
And Blessed Assurance is your novel. This is your first book?
That's the first novel. Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
first fiction book.
First fiction book, yeah.
And do you want to briefly explain what it's about, what's going on?
Yeah, sure. Yes, Blessed Assurance is really a book about four close friends. Obviously there are other people come into it as go along. The close friends, two guys who are friends from childhood. It takes you back from their childhood right through their lives. And the two women they marry who happen to be sisters. And it's about their relationships. It's about the tensions between the couples, about finding your life partner, but also it's about the fact that the two men become vicars. They're both very convinced in their beliefs, but their beliefs are very different, and that causes some conflict as well. So you get the whole life story from being brought up in Yorkshire or on the Sussex coast and ending up on the North Downs. Places not dissimilar to Leatherhead, and the conflicts and the resolutions and their relationships as you go along.
So this is a fiction book, and it's purely a novel and a story. But would you say that it has, if not religious connotations, at least philosophical and spiritual connotations?
It is, yeah, probably more philosophical. It sounds very religious because two of them are vicars.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is about the relationships. But the arguments they have are kind of philosophical arguments. Yeah. And part of the underlying thing, which I don't think I'd realised as I was writing it, but one of my friends who helped and mentored me through it said, you know, what you've got here is we're living in an increasingly secular society. People don't have a religious basis and faith to the extent that they used to have, and do we need to replace it with something, and if so, what is that? So there's that kind of element underlying it as well.
So even if you're not a particularly religious person, you don't necessarily, it's not a preachy, but you're not.
It's not a preachy. No,
selling anything.
No. And in fact, my general philosophy, in a different sense, in terms of writing, is that I think writing should make people think and ask questions, and I don't think it should suggest the answers.
Yes, ask questions, but not necessarily answer. Yeah. How long did it take you to get to the point where you have a finished book, in terms of come up with the concept? How did you come up with the concept? And
right, yeah. It took a while. I came up with the concept because you said I'm a playwright, so I'd written a one-act play about these four main characters, and a friend of mine, Trevor Danby, he used to run Leatherhead Theatre's rep company. He read the play and he said, you've got four really interesting people here. I want to know the backstory. Why don't you write a novel about the backstory?
Right.
So that's what I've done. And it took me 5 years or so, but not focused work, because I was doing other things in a mock plays and what have you. And then from the point of deciding that I'd kind of finished it, it then probably took another year to 18 months, because I sent it out to half a dozen people to be beta readers, and then I had editing and so on, and the process takes a while as well.
Sure. Any insight into the process of what you just described, it getting edited, beta readers, that sort of thing? Any insights on what you wish you had done, you didn't do, that you would do again, what you wouldn't do again?
Yeah, I think I would have involved somebody else earlier, because the first couple of years I got almost nowhere and I just kept getting stuck. And at that point...
That's in the writing process.
And in the writing process, sorry, in the writing process. And at that point, a friend of mine who's written various books, and she's an American stand-up, she found that I was writing this thing and stuck, and she gave me a hard time. And I said, well, I'm used to having a line manager and a deadline, and I haven't got that now in writing. And she said, well, I'll be your line manager. Send me something on a regular basis. And if I'd only realised that I could do that with somebody earlier, well, I would have got through it a lot quicker.
Do you think self-imposed limits from a writing point of view is important?
Yeah, I think so. I suppose we're all different in terms of how we discipline and so on. And I know people who can sit down and just write, and I'm always doing a bit and then getting off to walk the dog or play the sax or something, you know.
It's easy to be distracted in this day and age. So the other thing I was going to ask a bit later on was the idea of writing in isolation. What do you prefer? Do you prefer writing alone, or you feel that part of a team in writing? Not necessarily team input. You could still be the sole creator, but you work. As I said, you're working with someone else who's going, look, we need this page done by tomorrow. I
think it's helpful to be part of a team, but again, that's probably partly personality.
Sure.
But I know in the drama world, I was writing plays and then giving them someone to look at, and being very nervous about that. And I moved from that when I started working with professional directors to giving them a couple of scenes at a time and getting the feedback as you went along, and then you felt you were part of a creative process in a team, and it was kind of, I was nervous about it to start with. I thought it would be negative, but actually it was a very positive thing.
Sure. And you felt it added to
it added to it, and you end up with a better process, and it helps, particularly if you're working with people who don't say that's not very good, but do say, why have you done that? You know, it's the kind of approach.
Sure. And okay, people are different, and some people might not benefit as much as others.
Yeah.
This day and age, where more and more books are being published every single week, but not always good ones. What's changed in writing process and the market, I suppose? And has it got easier? Has it got harder?
I think it doesn't. For me, it doesn't affect the actual process of writing itself, although it could do, because it could be a disincentive. But I think what's happened a lot is that the mainstream publishers and agents are very focused on big names who will sell. So if you're a Premier League footballer and you do a book, it doesn't actually matter whether it's any good or not, it'll sell, and that's a bit frustrating for people who are just writers. But what's happened as a result of that is a big move into independent publishers. And what I discovered when I went down that route was there's an awful lot of people offering services to help you. You have to discern which are the good ones and which are the corrupt or varying versions. But there are people who help you with that, and that's been quite a positive. And you end up with more control, which is not a bad thing.
Absolutely. From your point of view, both as a writer, but also probably slightly more interesting, because I said you're a playwright as well, so not everyone can answer in the same particular way that you could. In your opinion, can you make a living from being a writer today, if you're not already a celebrity and one of the big names?
I think it's very difficult. I think you can if you keep producing books, and if you get on top of the marketing, and there's all sorts of things you can do with that. But it's very difficult to start with, and I think with one book, and in the theatre, it's very difficult unless you've just happened to hit the zeitgeist with something.
Sure.
So I think most people who make a living from writing don't really. They make a living from the bits around the edge, from the teaching and the talking and that kind of thing.
But if I'm hearing rightly, and correct me if you think I'm not understanding what you're saying, is the level of production and the quantity of your work, if you're producing lots of it, that helps more, as opposed to you've written one book, but it might take another 5 years to write another book, as in you need to keep almost, I don't want to use the word, but churning.
Yes, keeping them coming. And in fact, when I've seen with the plays, that people see a play and they like it and they say, what are you doing next? And so there is that. And with the book, and various people have said to me, the people that helped me with the publishing said, what you really need to have is an idea what your next one is, so you can put that on the website and everything else, and people can see there's another one coming. If some of the same characters in it, so much the better. And I hadn't really given much thought to that, but I have now. It's on the website, and I've got a working title, and so on. So
I mean, the thing that I find interesting about that, and again, you could come from a slightly different point of view from the playwright, is I did hear a podcast some time back saying the same sort of thing that applied to stand-up comedians, as in if you want to be a functioning, working stand-up comedian, as in that's your job, you need new material all the time. You can't just come up with one set of half an hour material and then coast off that for the next 2 years. you need to keep
Yeah.
coming out with shows, keep coming out with new things.
I think that's right. Years ago, you used to be able to do that as a comedian, but now
You see it online or
it's
whatever.
online and everything. Everybody's
what's the
heard
next
it.
one?
Yeah,
So
that's right.
if you need to keep coming out with new books, new
Yeah.
plays, new music, new stand-up.
Yeah.
It's anything creative, I guess, because there's such a demand for content now, isn't there?
Yeah,
With the
Yeah.
internet, with
Yeah.
Netflix, with however you consume your material, it's people want more. So if you want to be, I suppose, relevant and getting paid, you need constant.
you need to
new
produce
stuff.
them all. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I suppose one of the things that I'm doing is, besides planning the next book, is that I'm always producing something. So I've got a play on the stocks, which I'm hopefully now going to finish. I'm writing a lot of poetry. I'm working with local artists in terms of getting that out there. But so that all kind of helps, but it doesn't help as much as the next novel.
Sure. No, I understand. Again, looking back 10 years ago, say, what you've done the last 10 years, if there's one thing that you wish you hadn't done, can you think of something? One regret that you did do or didn't do, or if you had your time again, what would you do
What would I
differently?
do differently?
Yeah.
I think I might have focused on the writing a bit more. But having said that, in the real world, because I've got so many other things going on, that then I think I did what I could do.
Sure.
I think when I gave up, sort of 10 years is an interesting time actually, because about 10 years ago I went freelance with my original work and part-time to give more time for writing. So that's kind of a good measure. And in the early stages I did more of the old work and less of the writing, and maybe I could have transitioned a bit more speedily.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I think that's to do with, well, it felt like a courageous step to say, I'm not going to earn this any longer, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to keep a bit of it, and it's a more courageous step to give up more of it.
Yeah, I get that. Absolutely. Any advice for someone who's an aspiring writer, who's kind of have an idea, but it's very, very early stages, and they've just done a bit of it, but nowhere near thinking of actually getting published? What do you think they should be doing?
Well, I think persevere, but I think also getting involved with the people. We talked about teamwork and so on, but one thing we didn't say was that a lot of writing groups around.
Yeah.
And so I'm involved with a local poetry group and also a local script writing group, and neither of which are really focused on novels, but nonetheless you're talking to people all the time about writing, and when you're stuck with something, you've got things you can bounce people bounce things off. And I think there's a creative writing group in this area where people are writing novels and things. So I think it's worth getting involved with other people, because it's an encouragement and
absolutely,
and a group of people who are going to be a nice audience. On the whole,
would you say writing is writing, whether you're writing a film script, a TV script, a play, or a novel? Or obviously there is differences, but if you've got an idea and you're creative, would you say just write it, or does it help if you're setting out, right, I am writing a film script, or I am writing a novel?
I think it varies. I think this was always a novel, but it came out of a play. So the thing which impacts it, I think, is what the depth that you want to explore something in, because you've clearly got a much wider and broader palette if you're writing a novel than if you're writing a one-act play.
Sure.
But also, and almost against that, I've known of things where I started writing something in one particular type of writing, and then it's kind of felt wrong, and you've moved across, and it's become something else. So I think you've got to be fairly flexible.
Yeah. It's almost the creative process first, and then the application bit second. Yeah. Interesting. Tony, if people are interested in what you're saying and more interested in your future works or what you have done, is there a way people can contact you, social media, that sort of thing? Website?
Yeah, there is. I got a website which is very easy. It's just tonyearnshaw.co.uk. I'm on Twitter as Tony Earnshaw1. Facebook as Earnshaw plays and novels. So yeah, there's various ways. Yeah.
Sure. And again, you're always working on something new.
I'm always working on something new.
More material coming out.
More material. Yeah.
Tony, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.